All right, I'm gonna see how many people jump onto this. It's kind of wild just seeing. Let me see. Yeah. Kick off live stream. Let's see how many people join this live stream. Can anyone leave comments, by the way? I don't really know how this works. I don't even see it show up on Twitter yet. But I'm just gonna. Can anyone leave a comment? I don't know how Twitter live streams handle comments. Okay, let me just quote tweet this. Is anyone able to leave a comment? Because if people can't leave comments, then I can't answer any additional questions. Okay, sweet. Wild. Okay, there's like 70 people in the live, so I'll try to give some context. So this morning, I just made like an open call to review a bunch of people's different proposals in order to figure out what everyone is doing, any common mistakes that I'm seeing, and maybe also just potentially learn something for myself. And generally, I tend to see a couple of mistakes that I definitely made, maybe even like 6-7 months ago. And so my goal for this stream is to kind of just talk through it, and then I'm just going to use the transcript off of YouTube to use that to generate some of the notes that I made. Okay, so I think the biggest mistake people are making in terms of being consultants or calling them consultants is that they're not actually consultants. Most of them are just contractors. And I would say the difference is that a lot of the people I see are mostly selling work. Right? They're selling a list of tasks. I will make an app, or I will like make a prototype. Right? And if you do that, then you kind of condemn yourself to mostly trading the time that you take to build something for money. And so if you start at $90 an hour, you can get to $100 an hour. If you get $100 an hour, you can $200 an hour. But once it gets like $500 an hour, it kind of feels crazy. If it gets to $1,000 an hour, you almost look like a grifter. And the issue is there's always these units of time that you use when you calculate how much you're going to make. And the problem is if you only sell your time, you can figure out how much your year is going to make you, right? There's this many hours in the year. If you worked 80 hours, you would make this much money. And no matter what you do, if you want to make more money, you have to just work more hours, assuming this price is fixed. And so the big mistake I see is too many people are describing the tasks they're going to do rather than trying to figure out like what is the outcome people want to drive, right? And so the most common example is it's one thing to say, oh, I will give you evals. I will do some instrumentation. But it's very like self-centered, right? It's all about what I'm going to do versus trying to frame it as like, what are you going to get, right? And so I think that's the biggest mistake. And that same mistake with selling your tasks and selling your actions shows up in a lot of people's landing pages, right? It's always like, hi, I am Jason. I am an AI consultant. I build apps for people. I do this and I do that. And very little of that description that people have on their website is actually trying to find a good customer or figure out what kind of pains the customer is running into. And more importantly, proving to yourself or proving to your customer that you can actually solve their pain. And so, the description ends up looking like a resume. And it's fine for things to look like a resume if you're doing a job interview, right? Because if you show up in a job interview, the client, the customer, the employer already has written a job description. And so you're already proving yourself against the job description. But if you're having a consulting page, nobody just like wakes up and says, "Oh, I need a consultant," right? And so part of your landing page should effectively be the job description for that client. Right? And so what do I mean by this? Right, the goal that we're talking about is figuring out how to go from selling your time on an hourly basis to maybe trying to maybe charge for results and outcomes. And if you can do that, you can divorce yourself from time. So what this looks like instead is, okay, I'm Jason, I'm a consultant. If you are someone that has these problems, I can help you, right? And so instead of saying like, I can build evals, maybe it's you're losing customers because people don't trust your application, or the way that your application is hallucinating is costing you something, right? The latency of your application is causing you to lose customers. If you can do that, then what you're really doing is you're kind of asking a couple of questions or proposing a couple of different pain points that your customer can read and go, "Oh, that's me. That's me. That's a problem I have. Who is this guy? Why do I believe, or how can I be convinced that this person can actually solve this problem?" Right? If you're a plumber on a plumbing page, your page is not just like, "I am a plumber. I am like the best plumber." Usually a good plumbing page is like, "Oh, do you have leaky faucets? I work on like broken water pipes, or I fix these problems. I fix these problems." And it allows the customer to basically self-select for that page, right? Like it's not your bio, it's like a sales page, and you got to do sales. And so, you know, the idea is that like most people are selling their work, they're selling the task list, and they should be selling outcomes. And you can sort of fix that by making sure the proposal is focused on selling the outcomes of your work rather than the actions that you're going to do, right? If you sell, and on top of that, if you sell actions, there's other things you can do to make more money later on. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But if you want to sell outcomes, you have to first make your landing page about problems you solve rather than who you are or what you do, right? Because the most important thing is the problem. Right? If you think of an example of a RAG app, like a lot of people reached out to me maybe earlier this year, and my description wasn't just, "Oh, I help companies build RAG applications," which is a task, to you might want to reach out to me if you are building a RAG application and some of these things are happening. Your existing engineering team is struggling to transition into being more AI focused, right? What does that mean? Now what you're saying is, okay, you have a team of 5 engineers, you pay each one, like $20,000 a month. So you have this like $80,000 asset that you're spending every month. What proportion of that are you willing to invest to make them more successful? 10%? 10% is $8,000 a month. Okay, maybe that's where we start the conversation, right? Or it's you build a RAG application and the lack of evaluations and observability is resulting in you not understanding how you can prevent churn, right? Or customer satisfaction. Okay, your company is making you, $100,000, $200,000 a month. You're losing 10% of it. Okay, that's $10,000. How much would you pay to get $10,000 a month in revenue again? And again, now you're thinking about, like, okay, what is the problem the customer is having? What are the outcomes they're missing out on? What is it costing them? And what percentage of that are you willing to invest to make it less painful for you, right? Let me take it off your plate. Let me, make sure that maybe a 10% investment in the ROI to make it like a month faster, right? Something like that. I think one question is, have you ever missed out on a gig by being too specific with the outcomes? No, only because most companies that are small, that don't have any problems, don't really know what they're measuring, right? If you're not specific with the outcomes, really what you're saying is, "Oh, AI is like a nice to have. I don't really know what I want." If they don't know what they want, they're not really willing to pay for it, right? Like if I'm not hungry and someone offers me the best hot dog in the world, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if I want a hot dog. The hot dog's like $4. I don't know. But if I like leave a concert at like 2 a.m. and this like food truck comes to me and is like, hey, is your girlfriend hungry? Now I was like, oh shit, like, is she? Because if she's hungry, I have to buy this hot dog. And then what you realize is, oh man, like what you're really selling is like the hunger, right? And so the question is like, okay, if your girlfriend is hungry, I can solve that problem for you. But it's going to cost you $7 to get this hot dog. You're still going to pay, right? And their willingness to pay is probably going to be a function of how expensive that concert is, right? If those concert tickets were like $200 concert tickets, I'll sell a $9 hot dog, right? You know, you can do a lot of things to sort of figure out how to charge more as long as you understand what those items are. Okay, so what did we talk about? We said you can't trade your time for money. You have to figure out what the outcomes are. Once you can figure out what those outcomes are, you can do a lot of other things, right? These outcomes are really problems. So now I know what kind of problems they have. Then the question is, how can I make that more apparent on my landing page? You know, you should reach out to me if you have this problem, if you have this problem, if you have that problem, right? In the example for my business, it was a lot of you're losing customers, low customer satisfaction, your engineering team doesn't know what to do, you don't know if you're on track, and you think that like building an AI application is going to allow you to raise more money and all that kind of stuff. Okay, now I understand what your pain is, so I can figure out like what the dream outcome is for you, right? Your team of 5 can build the application and take it in production and make sure to improve it over time. You stop losing users, right? Stuff like that. If you can do that, then really what's going to happen is now your content flywheel is also going to be very clear, right? So what I did in the beginning was basically go, okay, I know these companies have like RAG problems. Let me just do a bunch of free calls. So just like every person I talk to, I'll jump on a 30-minute call with you, answer any questions that you have, figure out if those pains are really the pains that people are facing. If it is, and I'm actually good at my job, what I should be doing next on my landing page is to demonstrate that I can actually solve those problems. And so, great. One of the pains was that companies with teams of 4 or 5 engineers are struggling to adapt their skills into AI engineering skills. All right, let me go write a bunch of content on how software engineers need to adapt their skills to make like AI engineering more practical, right? Here are some mistakes I've noticed. Here are things I would do. RAG evaluations are really bad. Why is that? Okay, well, it's because I think using LLMs as a judge is too slow and people aren't doing enough experiments. This is something I've noticed. And so let me write content on that. And what you end up doing is you just write a bunch of content that kind of just answers all the questions that people care about, because those are the outcomes you want to sell against. And then maybe you just say, okay, well, there's kind of 3 things I can do with every pain, right? I need to demonstrate that I can make the pain go away. I need to demonstrate that I can make the pain go away faster. And I need to be able to demonstrate that I can make the pain go away with less effort, right? This is kind of like Hormozi's value equation. And then on top of that, I need to be really good at being able to communicate what the cost of that pain is, right? So for example, if we think about this example of, how do I upskill my engineering team? What is it going to cost you if you don't upskill your engineering team? You're going to hire a machine learning engineer? Do you know how expensive those people are? Right? OpenAI is paying people like $1 million a year. And so what is it going to cost you to hire someone who is at the level of someone who would join OpenAI? Really hard, right? What is it going to cost you if you spend like 3 or 4 months trying to hire an AI engineer and then they go somewhere else because they've offered more money or because your roadmap is shit, you can't close them, right? This is going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? What is it going to cost you if you can't build a machine learning team and then you fail to raise a Series A? Again, like you can sort of describe how big these problems are and go, okay, well, if you think it's going to cost you like $500,000, maybe $30,000 is cheap, right? If you actually know what your goal is. Maybe in this case, the goal is to train your existing engineering team to be better at AI engineering. Or maybe we can brainstorm and figure out, okay, actually what I want to think about is, not only upskilling the existing team, but also attracting more talent. Maybe I can help you make a roadmap that's more attractive to good talent. Maybe I can help you make a roadmap and a pitch that makes it more attractive to investors, right? How can I help you close the head of engineering or close the head of AI? And you can do all this because you know what the outcome is, right? The outcome is not a list of actions. What you do is you describe that, you tell the person, okay, I know what you actually want, and these are the actions that will get us there. And here's the proof that I can get us there. And that's when you show these blog posts. And basically what happened was, within maybe 6 to 8 months, most of my deal flow basically came from people who read my blogs. They just said, hey, I don't know who you are, but your blog posts keep showing up in my goddamn Slack, and I keep reading these things, and you're basically just a couple months ahead of us. And I noticed you had a services thing, and I clicked that. Okay, great. Can we just jump on a call? And then my job is to basically demonstrate that I'm the oracle, right? Hey, if you are running into this problem and this problem right now, I think in the future you're going to run into this problem and that problem. By the way, here's the blog post, right? Here's the thing I had thought about already. Here's the answer. Here's everything you need to do. And you might think, oh man, Jason, like, aren't you giving away all the secrets? Yeah, but like, the secret to getting jacked is just eating better and working out, but it doesn't mean people will do it, right? And then there's other questions. Okay, what kind of workout? And then people spend too much time thinking about like how to get jacked and then stop going to the gym. But there's tons of people with money who will pay a personal trainer to just like yell at them and to just sort of hold them accountable, right? And so you can put yourself in that same frame as long as you understand, again, what the customer wants. If the customer says, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks, okay, are you committed to like losing 10 pounds in 6 weeks? Right? It's not, do you need a nutrition plan? Do you need like a workout buddy? But no, those are the things that you measure. Right? And then again, you just figure out like, okay, what is someone willing to pay, and what is the cost? Right? Do you just want to lose 15 pounds? Maybe you're not the right customer. But if you're going on your honeymoon trip, or you're like doing this like once a year like trip to Cuba, you're probably willing to pay way more money for like that 15 pounds, right? Maybe you want more commitments that way. But it's because you know what the goal is. Okay, now I know your goal is to like lose 15 pounds in the next 6 weeks because you go on your honeymoon, right? The way you can like sell services become different too. But again, this is kind of like backtracking. What were we talking about? So we talked about this idea of selling the outcomes. We talked about the content, right? Yes. And so, the idea really is to take all these calls, do them for free, and just produce this like library of content. And a library of content should be framed in a way that's always highlighting the fact that you understand what the actual outcomes are, right? Like, most people don't want a chat app. They want like better conversion, right? Like, people don't like, some people lift weights, but some people lift weights to be more confident, right? In which case, maybe it's just having these like highest number. Some people lift weights to be jacked so they can be confident. But just like demonstrate that you understand the difference is going to sort of make you feel more like an oracle, more of an expert, right? If you come up and say, okay, like, I think your goal is to get really strong, but just by the way, like, if you do this for a long period of time, you're going to get really tired and you should take a week off every 6 weeks because you want to like deload. What's going to happen is like 6 weeks down the road, they're going to run into that problem. They're like, oh shit, Jason was right. If Jason was right about this and Jason was right about that, and he has all this shit that he wrote, what else is Jason right about? Fuck, I don't have time to read all this shit. Like, I have my day job and have all this other stuff. Why can't I just hire Jason to get access to do something for me, right? Because the people with money also have like no time. Like, the people with money have plenty of money and no time. And what you're really doing is trying to save them a lot of time to get results that they care about. At the highest level, the people with money, the easiest thing to do is to spend money to solve a problem, right? Like, spending money is the like zero marginal cost thing to do, right? Hiring a whole person takes months, right? But just getting the answer by spending money, super easy. Okay, so we've demonstrated that we can't sell our time for money. We have to sort of sell outcomes and then sort of ask for percentages off that outcome, or at least structure it in a way where how much you're asking for is incredibly small relative to what the customer is going to get. And you can do that by demonstrating your understanding of the pains and the motivations of this person. And if you understand that, you should make your landing page structured in such a way that you filter for those people, right? Like if I say your rag app is losing customers because of low customer satisfaction and there's churn, what this means is you actually have customers. So you actually have money to lose. And because you have money to lose, you're willing to pay a little bit of money to not lose that money. But if you just say I built AI applications, like that could be for anybody, right? Anyone who's curious and like doesn't know if they should build an app might hire you, and then they go, oh, $2,000 is really expensive. But for someone else, $2,000, like holy shit, I'm losing $50,000 a month, right? Or it's like, oh wow, like my monthly salary that I pay out to my back office team is like $200,000, and you can do this for $2,000. This is 1%, right? And so again, it's understanding how you can highlight those outcomes and then write content to demonstrate that. And then during your sales process, basically predict for others like what kind of problems they're going to run into. And what you really need to do is you need to give away like all of the information you have for free. Because giving away all the information you have for free is going to get you to a place where you are actually seen as the expert. And what's going to happen is that people with money are just like, fucking, I don't have time to read this shit. He definitely seems like he knows what he's talking about. Okay, now I want to go and figure out how I can hire this person to solve this problem. And if I am solving a $100,000 problem, I'm willing to pay $10,000. If I'm solving a $100 million problem, I'm willing to pay $4 million. And if you go to that limit, the companies making $100 million problems are hiring McKinsey for $4 million. Like that's just how it works. But in the presence of this AI shit, in the presence of like how the internet works, you're basically guaranteed to lose if you try to play in the middle of this market, right? Like the internet either works because you've hyper like fixated on some small community, or you're Facebook. And so again, I think if you just say like we make AI apps, it's going to be terrible because you're going to lose to OpenAI, you're going to lose to Anthropic, you're going to lose to like Loom or whatever. But if you say like, oh, I make AI applications for real estate companies trying to improve their sales efficiency, you're going to do pretty well, right? Like I really believe that riches are in the niches, and again, just creating this content gets you that flywheel. Okay, right? Like an example of that is if I wrote a book on productivity, I can probably sell that for like $20. If I wrote a book on productivity for salespeople, I can probably sell that for $300. If I did a workshop for productivity for executives, that's probably like a $2,000 a day workshop, right? And what you hope is like for every like multiple in price, you don't lose that many customers. But at the highest level of productivity, you just hire an EA, right? Like for $90,000, I'll make you more productive because you just won't have to have an email system, right? But it's kind of the spectrum. But the more you niche down, the more you're gonna be able to charge more, because the people who really understand the problem understand what they actually want to solve, right? Like you could just keep telling me, oh, like here's how to do email better, versus, oh, you'll never have to worry about email again because I'll manage it for you, right? And I know it's worth it for you because you are someone making like $3 million a year. And if you spend 2 hours a day on emails, that could be spent elsewhere, right? Like this is also the reason people like justify like private jets, because they think like doing the deals are going to pay off the jet or whatever. But the general idea is still just asking the question, okay, what do you think you're going to get in return for a successful engagement? And then what percentage of that are you willing to spend to make it more likely to succeed or happen in less time or be less difficult for your team, right? Because that's going to end up being what the like richest clients are going to deal with. They just say, well, my job is to be given $1 million and make $5 million, right? Like that is their job. Like, you know, a good ad is just an ad that says, okay, for $1 I spend in advertising, I make $3 back. If that was true, you would just keep buying more ads until that ratio went to 1, right? Like that's basically how it works. Like at the highest level, it's just capital allocation. Okay. So you have a great landing page that selects these customers because you understand their pains. They give you a call. They tell you what your problems are. And then you're able to say, okay, it sounds like you have this problem and that problem. Let me send you other blog posts where I talk about this. Now you're going to get into a place where you're going to start asking them to pay you. I generally, again, just give as much advice for free as possible and try to just demonstrate again that like I'm the oracle, like if you come to me, all your problems are solved. That's kind of like the dream I want to sell, right? It's like you could have 3 engineers like scrolling Twitter and reading blog posts for the next hour a week, or you can just have me on Slack. That's kind of how I structure a lot of my advisory work now, right? But now it comes time to ask for money. And this is, I think, the next thing I want to talk about, which is a lot of the times where I've been reviewing the proposals I see people write, these proposals, again, talk too much about the actions I want to take, right? It is like, company needs evals. I can take the next 3 weeks and build you evals for $8,000, right? But again, this means that you don't actually understand what the pain is. Maybe the pain is churn. Maybe the pain is conversion. Maybe the pain is, holy shit, like my engineering team of 5, they spend like 3-4 hours a week just debating on like what works and what doesn't work. So if you describe in the proposal what the company is trying to do and what kind of outcomes you want to drive, again, you're going to start moving the conversation to being a little bit more values-based, right? So instead of saying, I'm going to build you evals, you could say, oh, company X is looking to develop new features in the next like 1 or 2 quarters. And the lack of evals is resulting in a lot of wasted time on the engineering team figuring out what to build next. Hesitation in being able to ship new features because they don't know what works and what does not work. Right? Being unable to identify different reasons why customers might be churning, and it's generally hurting the cycle speed of the business, right? And so by building a good evaluation set, we're going to be able to move faster, right? We're going to have much more trust in the system, right? You can talk about how like continuous integration allows individual engineers to ship more quickly, and how getting to shipping more quickly means getting more feedback from users. We can talk about how building this eval system in a way that allows design partners to submit examples could drive like better development and better feedback. And now it's like, oh, I'm not here to like build you evals. My job is to change how your engineering team builds software, right? And now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to make your W-2 like costs. Like I'm going to try to lower that, right? You have 10 engineers, each one pays $20,000. Okay, so you have this like $6 million asset that you want to accelerate, and these are going to have compounding effects, right? And you know that. Okay, let's now figure out what that is worth. So that's one thing, right? So one thing, it's like instead of selling the task list, really try to figure out like what the customer is going to get. The second mistake that I see in proposals is I think too many people like write only one price, right? It's ridiculous. Like it just means that like you're never going to effectively search the price spectrum if you only have one number, because you're only going to get like a success or a failure. And if you want to like experiment with price, you're always at the risk of just burning the relationship. And so what I like to do is I like to offer multiple options for a service, where the first option gets you close to, or gets you to what the customer actually wants. Right? So V1, like you want to develop the system so that you can iterate more quickly and just make sure that your engineering team is much more effective and can make more confident decisions. That's gonna be $20,000, and that's gonna take 3 months, right? I'm not saying like I'm gonna charge you $7,000 a month to build your evals. What I'm saying is the eval system is worth 20 grand and it's going to take 3 months to implement it. Because again, if you do the 20 grand over 3 months, what you don't want is you don't want a dollar amount attached to a like time unit, right? It's like very important. Anyways, and then what you want to do is you want to figure out what other things can I offer this client that communicates that I understand what their final outcome is supposed to be, and that I am willing to be fully accountable for the outcome, right? Like how much I pay you is effectively a function of like how responsible you are for the final result. Because if I just pay you to do a little bit of work, I'm responsible for gluing all this shit together, right? Like, for example, if I made thumbnails or something, yes, exactly, right? It's like this costs this much and it takes this long to get it, versus like, because if you do this, like, we can make up numbers, right? Like, but then it's just like, okay, well, Elon Musk makes $80,000 a second. Like, doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not supposed to make sense, right? And you're supposed to put yourself in a domain where it doesn't make any sense. But the reason Elon Musk gets to make that much money is because he's responsible for creating that much like shareholder value in the equities that they care about, right? Anyways, so again, you want to have multiple options. That's key number 1. 2, they have to be divorced from time. Then 3, these multiple options have to communicate 2 different things. 1, that I understand what the outcome is, and 2, I understand what the I can be fully accountable for that outcome. So for example, earlier this year, I was helping teams hire engineers, and I was like charging $300 an hour for a job interview. I got too busy, so I charged like $700 an hour. And I was like, oh man, I'm making so much money. I'm making $700 an hour to give job interviews. But what we realize is that does not demonstrate accountability, nor does it demonstrate an understanding of the final outcome. Because if I just like kept saying no to interviews that were bad, maybe the answer was, oh, Jason just wants to like fucking milk us for all we got. He keeps saying no to every interview, even though we've hired some people he said no to, right? Not aligned. But you might think, holy shit, Jason's making like $700 an hour for a job review. That's so much money. I wish I could do that. No. The recruiter makes way more, right? At the end of this 3 months where I had hired like 3 people, I got paid like $9,500, right? I'm like, oh man, like, all I did was ask them, like, could you explain? I'm winning. But no, the recruiter makes 25% of the first year's salary. And each person we hired, we gave them a $200,000 offer. And so the recruiter made like over $100,000, right? The recruiter made over $100,000 and I made $9,000. So the recruiter made 10 times more than me. But I was the one that gave the interviews. I was the one that built the roadmap and convinced them that this company is worth joining. And like half the people who joined recognized me from Twitter. So I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I did all that work and made 10 times less than a recruiter. Why? Okay. The recruiter's payment is 20% of the full-time salary, right? So what does that mean? Okay, like the better the candidate, the more you're going to pay them. But it's fine because I'm going to get paid more. I'm not going to charge you for like every resume I screen or every phone. I know what you actually want. You want to hire, right? So I want a percentage of that. I want a percentage of the capital you allocate. The second thing the recruiter does is I'll give you your money back if you fire them or they quit within 3 months. So now they're even accountable, right? So not only do they understand the outcome, they're accountable for it. Because if I find you someone and you hire them and then they fucking leave, they don't make any money. So they've put so much of the understanding of what the customer wants, what the employer wants into the price. And people are still willing to fucking pay for it, which is outrageous. But again, the recruiter made like $200,000 and I made like $9,500 and I thought I was winning. This is ridiculous, right? Would I have maybe done more interviews or less interviews? Well, that's not the point, because I'm not selling you 15 interviews, right? I'm selling you the team, because the team is going to build you a product that makes you way more money. So like, who gives a shit, right? But maybe you want the team to help you like create the roadmap. You want to hire the head of AI. You want to raise a series like B. Like if that was the outcome, like the question I keep asking myself is like, oh, what kind of deal could I have made to communicate to them that I understood that their goal was to not only build the team, but to build the team in a way where the roadmap is exciting for the team and for the investors so they can raise a series B. Because then what? Like a series B is like $40 million. Like if I asked for $200,000 and I said, $200,000, I will write out your roadmap in a way that attracts the talent you need to build the product and to attract the investors you need to raise the money. And just don't pay me until you raise the money. $200,000 relative to like the 400 million, the 40 million they may have raised, again, is like I just feel cheap again. I haven't done that yet, but I think that I just use that as an exercise to realize that even in something as small as just charging hourly for job interviews is sort of the low end of what people make in general. Was this the experience why you started a job site? Yes and no. I just realized that, like again, people like so I get like for most of the companies I help recruit directly, it's like, okay, so on top of that, so this company paid me like $9,500 to interview like a bunch of people. I started helping other companies recruit. The referral bonuses are $10,000, right? Again, like things aren't adding up. And basically, so many people were reaching out to me. I said, okay, you know what? Like, it's really hard to convince someone to join a company. So the likelihood I'll get these like $10,000 referral bonuses is low. But still, I've made like $15,000 in the past year off like referral bonuses. Right? That was more than like having done like 25 job interviews. Okay. Anyways, point is accountability and outcome. If you can do that, you're going to be way more likely to, build offers that people will accept and thank you afterwards, right? Because the more I start hiring people, the more I realize that like the list of tasks I want someone to do just gets me to these outcomes. But I have to do so much work and so much energy to convert the deliverables and the task list to the outcomes I care about, right? Like, if I hired salespeople and they said, Jason, like, for every customer I forward to you, I'll pay you $500. I'm like, oh man, what if you send me a bunch of customers that don't turn, and I now have to like figure out in expectation if I'm breaking even. But if a salesperson said, okay, for every customer I get, I want 20%. Okay. I'll probably increase my prices by 10% and then give them the extra 20%. And that's fine, because every time they do it, I'm going to make 50K. The kickback, it makes sense. And I also understand that what they really want is not just customers, but customers that want to purchase. It turns out that's what people that do enterprise sales do, right? They just get kickbacks because the salespeople have already figured out this like outcome-based, accountability-based pricing. We just haven't done that. And I think it's because we just lack the creativity to figure out how to divorce ourselves from the list of tasks that we do versus the outcomes that we drive, right? I just think engineers suck at it. Like I sucked at it. I was like, I'll train a model. Right. And it's like, okay, well, I don't care if you train the model. I have to do sales. Like I have to, like the founder says, like I have to do sales. And really, what I've done in the past couple of months to get better at this is I started asking a new set of questions. Right? Okay, I want to write a proposal with 3 options. The first option has to do exactly what they want. And the second 2 options have to demonstrate that I know what they actually want. I want to be responsible for what they want. And I want a cut of what they get. That's kind of how you do it. The second thing you got to think about when it comes to this offer is you just got to make the third offer like really fucking expensive, right? Like how do you sell an expensive bottle of wine? You sell it beside a more expensive bottle of wine. But you have to make sure it's actually worth it, right? Because maybe the answer is, oh, I'll do your interviews. But option 3, I'll do the interviews, I'll do the roadmap, I'll help you hire the team, I'll help you find the investors so you can raise a Series B. That's option 3. Maybe that's like $200,000. They might not pick it. That's fine. Option 1 still does exactly what they need. But the issue is if you never put that in a proposal and you only give option 1, you'll never make more money off that single proposal. Whereas if you have these options, they can choose this price anchoring. You can communicate your knowledge of what they want, be accountable for what they want, and let them pick the right price. And if you let them pick the right price, what you're going to realize is you can answer way more questions. You can answer the question of like, what price is a price so low the quality is questionable? What price is like a good deal? What price is expensive? And what price is like prohibitively expensive, right? And what you can basically say is, oh shit, people keep choosing option 2. Should I make option 3 a little bit cheaper? Should I make option 2 a little bit more expensive? Who knows? But like for me, because I'm like always nervous about adding prices, like 50% of the time, people pick option 3, like the most expensive one, which basically just means that I need to make option 3 option 2. I need to make option 3 even more compelling, even more awesome, and like more expensive. But it's not really expensive, right? It's like option 3 should try to describe higher value, and then option 3 should try to capture that value, right? Because the difference is like, yeah, I'll do some job interviews versus like, I'll get you a Series A. $200,000 to get a Series A is just not expensive. It's like relatively cheap, but you have to like figure out how you can actually deliver that value. Anyways, what were we talking about? Yeah, the questions. So, sorry, I'm like talking a lot. If you have any questions, like leave them. I'll try to answer them. And then, yeah, I'll talk a little bit about how you can figure out what's going on. Right. So the goal really is to just figure out how I can separate the task list. Right. Again, the theme of today's stream is basically saying like, I can't trade my time for money. I can't sell a list of actions. Right. I need to sell outcomes, and I want to ask for percentages of outcomes. And my goal is to demonstrate that I understand what their outcome is, and I can get it faster. I can do it with less risk and less sacrifice. Okay. So here are the questions I like to ask during these sales calls. Just because I'm like a little bit more, I have more distribution. Like one of the things I ask in the beginning is like, hey, why did you reach out to me? What's at stake in your business? If you start asking like, what's at stake in your business, rather than asking like, what do you want me to do? The thing is crazy. Like it ends up being like, oh, I'm about to like run out of money and I need to build a prototype. Or it's like, my goal is to like raise $7 million and I need a demo to see if anyone's interested, or I need a proof of concept, and da-da-da. And what you'll realize is like what's at stake is going to have different levels of scale, and then you can decide how much to charge, right? Like some people are just like, oh, like my CTO is on paternity leave, and so I need to figure out how to capture that. It's like, oh, like you need someone to be an interim CTO. That's crazy. Like that's not $2,000 a month, right? But other times, like, oh, our goal is to raise a Series A, or it's like we are about to close this massive company, and we need to make sure we're doing the right thing. So these are like what's at stake. And what's at stake is super big. Another question I ask is, what do you look for in a partnership, right? Because people might have way different interests in terms of how they want to manage the engagement. For example, some people might say, I'm looking for a partner who is able to completely own the delivery of this product. This is not a priority for me, but this is something that I'm curious about, and I want to invest some money to figure out if it's worth it. Some other people say, we worked with some other engineering teams. They were like very bad. So like I needed someone who can like communicate often. Okay. So one client says, I fucking want to be left alone. I don't want to deal with this, but this is important. The other one is like, this is super important. I want to kind of just be able to like micromanage you. Option one just says, I'll do the work. Option two now can be, I'll do a monthly report versus I'll do a weekly report. Both options, you can just like add some additional cost to it because that's what they value, right? So you can price the barbell. But you can only do that if you know specifically how they might want to receive the service, right? And you can like change your pricing as a function of that, right? You can really play around with like the variables once you understand what they look for in a partner. The other question I have not asked yet, but I often ask my managers is not only like what do you look for in a partner, like how can I make you look good, right? It's the same thing. It's like, oh, you make me look good by communicating more, communicating less, get out of my hair. Maybe it is, I look good if we build something that goes viral. Interesting. How can I put that in the proposal? I look good if we raise the money. Like I look good if we can hire a great team. Like I look good if I deliver ahead of schedule. Again, all that information that they tell you can now be put in a proposal. Okay, we were gonna just say 3 months, but if you look good, if you look the best, if you can do it in 2 months, like add a rush fee, right? You can do a lot of things. Like again, just by understanding what the customer wants, right? And the last question I try to ask is not only how do I make you look good, but I have not asked this question often, so I can't really give good examples. But I will often also ask, like, hey, is this successful? Like, what does that actually look like? Like, if I train a model to you, success for your business is not 6% improvement in recall. And they'll say, oh, like success would mean our retention is really good, or we grow more users. And again, okay, well, how much is that worth? If you have 1 million users, that's worth a lot. If you have 6 million users, that's also worth a lot. Like again, trying to figure out like what the customer is going to get out of this, right? Because I think the way that I've now learned to understand value and pricing is the fact that there's 3 variables, right? There's the money you save, which is finite. Like if you pay $20,000 in like salary, if I automate all of it, I will at most make you $20,000, right? That's just it's the most. There's also increased revenue, which is a little bit more limitless, right? Depending on what kind of product you sell. Like maybe if you do something that has like 0 marginal cost of reproduction, like millions of dollars, right? So like I can make you more money. And then there's like emotional contribution. And this is kind of the thing you sell to the individual decision makers, right? Maybe it is a promotion. Like a simple example that I used to do when I was on the machine learning teams on B2B products was we would never sell to a single C-level, right? Because usually the C-levels in some way are competing for resources or they have some kind of zero-sum mechanic. For example, if I sell tools to the CTO, it is likely going to be the case that maybe not the C, like that's the thing of I think like IT. So yeah, CTO versus chief of security, right? The more shit we sell the CTO, the more we get in the security guy's hair. But if we had a product that's sold to the CSO, the chief security officer, maybe the CTO thinks, fuck, like now there's like so much more red tape. There's so much other shit going on. I don't want this product. I want to block it. So there's like these effects where the CSO and the CTO are now kind of fighting over buying your product because one person wants to buy your product, but the other person wants to block it. Because there's frictions, right? And so one trick that I've noticed that works really well is to always sell to both. And the thing you want to propose is that this is a cross-functional collaboration. Because if you nail this and it's a cross-functional collaboration and it goes out well, yeah, the business makes money. But when the business makes money because of this cross-functional collaboration or whatever, both the CTO and the CSO get like a bonus. So now you're also selling to this emotional aspect of like, not only is it good for the company, it's good for your career, right? Because there is a world where you just kind of argue with your colleagues, but there's a way where you guys all grab dinner afterwards and you're like, oh, that was awesome. Like, thank you for that, right? And you can get to a place where now you're selling a lot more to the emotional aspect of it, right? If you like think about when I hired my EA, like if they asked me like what's at stake, it's like, man, I've been going to bed at 2 a.m. Right? I am not seeing my friends. You're like, oh, what is that worth to you? Like, oh shit, like thousands of dollars a month, maybe, right? But if they also ask like, hey, like what does success look like? Again, success does not look like the list of actions, right? Success is not like I spend less time on emails. Like it could be, but it's in service of something else, right? It's like, oh, it's not just like it's like I'm less stressed, right? It's like I do more deals, right? Someone's there to like protect my boundaries. Those end up being the things that are valuable. And then if you bring that conversation there, it's like, oh man, like it's like maybe it's not a per hour thing. Maybe I mean, again, it's like depending on like the level at which you operate. But if you start those conversations, I definitely consider myself being open to paying more if I knew that what I ended up getting was like less stress or less meetings, right? I just need someone to like yell at them, be like, hey, like no meetings, like this could be a memo, turn this into an email. Jason will do this asynchronously. But if they figure that out, you know, I like to, it would definitely benefit some of the conversations we have. How do you think about introducing metrics to the conversation? Do you use past experience examples, say their concepts? Do you break down into components early in discussions or wait to have more concrete understanding? Let me think about this. I have never even gotten to a place where we can break down the metrics to material dollars amounts, right? What I've tried to do in the past is maybe just ask like, hey, like what would it, like just posing that question, like what would it mean if you could reduce this number by 10% or like 20%? Like what's the shape of that number? Is it 5 figures? Is it 6 figures? Is it 7 figures? Those are some things that you know, make sense to ask. I think only very, very big companies have metrics that are super strong, right? Like only a big company will probably come to me and say, hey, Jason, our goal is to improve our customer satisfaction by 5%. Like if you make $1 million a year, I don't think you're worried about that right now. I think you're just like, what the fuck do I build? How do I grow? How do I get to like $10 million a year? Yeah. Yeah, and again, like that perceived value is because my goal or my dream for myself is to always be seen as the oracle, right? So there's like, it's like, oh, Jason's like built open source library. Jason like speaks a lot. Jason like writes a lot. And so as a result, there's this notion that like, oh, I just want to work with Jason. It sucks. Okay, so let me talk about this. It does mean that if you are the face of your business, you cannot fire yourself, right? And what ends up happening is just you have to recognize like what business you're in. Right? This is the most specific example. You have to recognize what business you're in. if you are in a services business, you have to ask yourself whether or not the problem is marketing or hiring, right? For example, if you own a gym, this is like Alex Hormozy shit. If you own a gym, everyone wants to be a personal trainer. There's plenty of jacked people that want to be a personal trainer. And so personal trainers are very undifferentiated. And so your job is to effectively market your services to make more money. But if you think about something like house cleaning, everyone wants house cleaning, but it's hard to hire cleaners, right? And so if you build yourself where your face is the face of the institution, people will rather pay me like $1,000 an hour than pay someone I hire $200 an hour. Right? Like I need to figure that out myself. But what this does mean is that I need to figure out how to delegate better and how to hire better and figure out where the margin is on that. How do you deal with over-aggressive legal requirements and terms from a client? I just hire a lawyer. Again, it depends on if you're differentiated, right? Like I think most people that come to me want to work with like Jason Liu. And so I just have like a legal counsel and I just say, well, so first of all, I send my engagement letter first. For any company that's like over $100 million, they just say like, fuck you. And then they just send me their legal requirements. And then I just have my lawyer that I pay like $500 an hour for to like redline everything. The two things I focus on when I look at these terms, by the way, if you buy my book, there's no book written yet, but I'm basically working on a book. I will have like all the paperwork that I have, like all the stuff that I paid my lawyer for. I'm just going to include all that. So I have a standard legal engagement letter. But generally what I do is I just have my lawyer review everything. And the two things I look for is one, IP ownership and making sure that like, hey, the stuff I build includes a lot of open source stuff. And so this stuff is not something that you own, right? Like, this is something I'm using open source for. And the second thing is just payment terms. A lot of companies will just slide in like net 60. Like big companies will slide in like net 60, which basically means that like you don't get paid in like 5 months because like there's a delivery process and then there's like some people pay after completion. And so I try to make sure that my proposals have two things. One of which is the option to 50% upfront, 50%, 45 days or 60 days afterwards. Depending on the size of the engagement and how committed the people are, you also can offer something that's like 15% if paid up front. And that's like, if you know you're going to do this, like you're just gonna save the money, right? And then obviously you can do different things with that. But again, it's just different optimizations. Yeah, my worry is that it's gonna be like too repeated, but I think the goal really is just to document my process. A lot of the information I have comes from a couple of books. Hormozy's influence is massive to me. How I write proposals is basically aligned with how Alan Weiss does it. But my goal is to primarily frame it in two things: framing it in terms of a services business, framing it in terms of a solo or like small services business, and framing the marketing as primarily content creation and kind of going down this like services influencer route. That said, I'm not convinced. Okay, I'll talk about this too because it's maybe related. It is really easy to do a services-based business, sell high ticket, and make like $500,000, $1 million a year. There's like nearly no path to like more than that. It's just like I just can't imagine making like $5 million by myself. If I had a team of like 7, 8 people that were all like L5 level, you'd probably do it. But selling services-based products is very easy to scale up quickly and then hit the ceiling, right? Like I just do not see myself making $200,000 a month. Like there's just no fucking way, right? If I worked really hard and worked my ass off, $100,000 a month, yeah. But I don't even want to do that long because it's just really grueling, right? Just so much writing, just talking all the time. And so there's like a limit on services, right? And I've kind of realized I've solved that. Like a lot of it now is like courses again. So it's like, okay, services is like $10,000 a month. Can I make something that is 5 times cheaper and sell that in hopes that I get more than 5 times more people, right? And so that's why like I did the course, you know. But yeah, like that is just the limitation of services business, and which is why like most people don't build services businesses, right? Like the cost to reproduce me is like the reason I make money. Like I can't find a me to offer a similar service, and that's the reason people pay me to do it, because they can't find a me either, and I barely want to work. And so there's huge issues with, I think, services businesses. But I definitely think it's like a temporary thing. Yeah, like I think David makes a good point. It's like the musicians again like make more money off the merch than like streaming rights. And so the question is like, you know, are there courses you can do? Is there material you can sell? Because selling these kind of information products, I think, is the natural next step, right? If $0 to $100,000 is done by improving proposals and finding the right customers and whatnot, the $100,000 to like the $200,000, I think that's all products, right? Whether it's like the book, whether it's like, I don't think I'll make any money off the book. Like if I cross like 10 grand, I think that'll be super cool. It would be a good way to spend a month or something, 2 months. But like, you know what I mean? So you end up, if you want to make this long lasting, I think it's really important to like figure out how to either scale off a business or just figure out how to just like sell. Because I just don't think this AI wave is going to be here for like 5 years. And so my path is ultimately probably going to be joining a fast growing company, and again taking different kinds of bets. But like I don't think I would join a company for like 1% if it was a seed company. Like it would probably be closer to like Anthropic that I joined. Because again, like I think the only way to be very wealthy is to own equity within companies. And so right now I've been taking the money I get from consulting and doing like angel investing and whatnot, but ultimately it's going to be coming from the growth of a business, because I just don't see consulting scaling that well. Like there's no real exit. Like there's no world where like, at least for me, there's no way that I hire 10 people, I train them all up, because now my job is not marketing or consulting. It's just hiring and training, which is a different business. Like I'm going to be bad at that. And do that. Would you ever try to start a bunch of SaaS products? Yes, I am doing that now. But I think these are just experiments, right? I think for there, the experiments are going to be like, can I build a product that makes $100,000, $200,000 a month, and then can I sell that business? So I think again, like my goal is to like learn and experiment and just figure out like how business works. I just think selling a company could be an interesting way of doing that. There's no way I sell a consulting agency, right? Because if I want to sell a consulting agency, what it means is I have to stop being a consultant and becoming like just like a recruiter and like an education trainer. And then I'm like reselling other people's time. And it's like the issue with running your own business is just every time you figure something else, you delegate it and then you try to figure the next thing, and you're just constantly bad at everything that you do. And it's just demoralizing, right? Like, but that's where you get the risk. Like you make more money because you're accountable for all this other shit. Like because I'm accountable for the marketing and the education, I can make more money. But damn, it sucks being bad at everything. Like evolving and growing as a person is exhausting. Yeah, right. It's like I think you're talking about visualizing the solution, but I would just try to make the pain feel really bad, right? It's like, okay, I'm a plumber. You called me. You want like your toilet fixed. Okay. What time is it? It's 2 a.m. Oh shit. Like this is a big issue, huh? Right? Why do you gotta fix it at 2 a.m.? Why can't you fix it like in the morning? It's like, oh, your wife is coming home? Oh, it's 2 a.m. in the morning and your wife is home at 8 a.m. And that's why you want me to come? Got it. Right. Or it's, oh, it's not your wife. We're actually selling the property, but this issue happened for some reason. And you know, you're gonna sell the property. Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, like, you're selling home. Are you like a real estate agent? What if I just become your plumber? Right? What if I just do this deal? Blah blah blah. And then you can kind of like grow a little bit more in that direction, right? What areas can you hyper customize the fixed project ideas to specific customer needs? Like I think about it in terms of like the size of the team. This is basically like per seat pricing, right? There's contact points. Like do we meet once a week or twice a week? There's like ideas there. But ultimately, it's just going to be around like figuring out how to be like the question you should ask yourself is like, how can I show them that I want to be more responsible for the final result, right? Like maybe if your job is to make the first sale, like don't pay me until the first sale. But I now want way more money because I'm taking on some risk, right? Like those could be some examples. But I think if you just DM me a proposal, I can definitely give you some feedback, not on the call. Yeah, man. It's like I'm just bad at everything. Like the moment I'm good at something, I like do something else. Like my goal isn't just to make the most money, because I would just do the same thing. I'll just like do the course like 20 times. But yeah, I really just want to like understand things. And right now, the thing I've been understanding the most is this pricing. And so I wanted to just talk about it. Clearly, like I've talked about it for an hour and 7 minutes straight. So there's a lot on my mind. Okay. I think I'm done my rant. What did we talk about? Just to wrap up. You can't trade your money for time. You have to sell outcomes. And you can do a lot of things to practice understanding what an outcome is. And it is likely going to be the case that outcomes are going to be motivated by pain. And so your landing page should filter for people who are in pain, right? It shouldn't be, I make AI apps. It should be, work with me if you are dealing with this problem or this problem or this problem or this problem. When you figure out what those problems are, your goal then is to just write a ton of content predicting what those problems are, what those solutions are, and demonstrating that you can make that solution happen quicker with less effort, that you can make that solution, happen, right? You can do that by writing blog posts. You can do that by writing examples, by building open source libraries. You can do that by having case studies, right? It's really useful to have testimonials. Like if you said, I help level up engineering teams, having the VP of engineering say, hey, like, because of Jason's help, we did need to hire more talent, or because of Jason's help, we were able to hire 3 more people. That's all proof, right? Because all the marketing can go into proof, and proof is going to be the highest converting thing. If you go to a restaurant, what do you look at? You look at the reviews and you look at the photos. The photos prove the food looks good. The reviews prove the food is good, right? But the design, who gives a fuck about the design of the menu, right? How price sensitive are you? Depends. What's the occasion? If it's your anniversary, you're willing to pay more because maybe your plans for that anniversary is higher. So it's like, okay, well, let's compare the price of the meal relative to how important this occasion is. What percentage of that are you investing in making sure that this is a great experience for you? And that's how you start thinking about doing value-based pricing and thinking about a luxury. And then the idea is like, once you understand all these pain points and you have all this content, now you can do sales, right? Because when you do sales, you're just understanding and asking them questions. Well, okay, well, if you run into this problem and that problem, you're going to run into these problems in the future. Let me send you some material. And when I do that, it's often the case, oh, thanks for sharing that. Turns out my engineers already read that. And again, it's like, holy shit, like Jason can see the future. Like, holy shit, like this is, I should just have him on the team, right? And then once you get the sale, writing the proposal is very important. And you have to make sure you have many options because you want to give them the ability and the permission to pay you more money. Like I think everyone's thinking about like being cheap and whatnot, but you want to give them options to pay more money. And so the option 1 should basically do everything that you said, but options 2 and 3 should be way more money, right? Option 2 should demonstrate that you understand what the outcome is. Option 3 should really showcase that not only do you understand what the options are or the outcome is, you want to be accountable for those options. And you can do that by asking a bunch of questions. Like, what's at stake in the business? What kind of partnership are you looking for? What do you expect to get a return on these kind of engagements? What percentage of that are you willing to invest to make this more successful? How can I make you look good? What does success look like to you? All those questions can help you figure out what those 3 options are. And the goal is to make sure that option 3 is like, pretty expensive. Like you should make it something that you're excited to do, but you should make it in a way where, the ideal situation is you get paid and they get the result and they go, holy shit, thank you so much. Like that's the dream. And it's definitely possible, right? Like it's definitely possible. But it depends on how accountable you are to the results, right? Matchmakers make way more money than dating apps, right? Like, again, it's all about the accountability, right? And demonstrating that you understand what the values are. And once you do that, you're going to realize that services kind of sucks. And then you probably go build like a SaaS product or like sort of course. And that's kind of how the cycle goes. Anyways, I'm pretty hungry now. I might go get some food, but if there's any questions, I'm down to answer questions for the next like 15 minutes. Let me get a drink of water. There's nothing. It's not my house. No water. Wait, Jason, what closing did I make? Yeah, this was recorded. So if you're on Twitter, this will just be a video in my Twitter. And then if it's on, it'll also be on YouTube. My goal is to basically, I'm going to take this video, send it to my writer, and then we'll figure it out. I got 5% rev share on the form kit job because of the accountability. Yeah, right? Because like, if like when I hire people, it's like, fuck, like they keep saying they'll do things. But for me to get what I want, I need to like glue shit together. But that takes my time. And like these days, it's like my goal is to value my time at like $2,000 an hour. So if you are like trying to write some code for me and I'm answering questions an hour a week, like I would rather just pay you $2,000 more and just not have to answer any of your questions, right? Like facts. Like, I could have a writer that says, I want to write you a good thing, but I want $500 for the blog post. Like, okay, like that's it. What if it's bad? What if you just pump out like 3 blog posts and like, scam me? But if you're like, oh, like I'm gonna write you something really fucking good, but I want a percentage of sales. You're like, oh well, damn, you must really want to write something good. And like, if I choose to pay them a fixed amount, it's because I don't want to cap my downside, right? It's like if I offer to pay you a limited amount and I think you're good, it means I know I'm going to make a fuck ton of money. And so there's some kind of trade-offs we got to think about. I don't think so. Can I charge more if I switch my LinkedIn profile to an anime profile picture? No, you just charge more when you're accountable for the outcomes. Fabio, can you explain what this means? How to handle when a client is reluctant to add metrics and evals? Like, for me, I'm just like, why are you? What do you think what is it costing you to add these metrics and evals, and why do you think it's not worth the return on investment? am I convinced that adding these metrics and evals are going to actually get you the result I care about? Right? Like that's like saying, oh, I'm a personal trainer. Like, what do I do if my person keeps like skipping the gym or like not eating vegetables? Like, look, do you want the results? Like, if this is really important to you, like if you're going on a trip to your honeymoon, why do you keep fucking eating cake? Is this not important to you? And if it's not important to you, fine. You can tell me that, but then tell me what you actually want, right? Because if you want these results, you got to do the exercises and eat well. If you tell me you don't want to eat well, we can change the exercises to just make you do more. We'll burn those calories. But the question to you is like, do you actually want these results? Because if you want these results, these are the things you have to do. And if you give me additional constraints, we can make it work. You just got to let me know. You know what I mean? That's how I think about it. So I would basically just say like, hey, work for free. It's like, hey, like I'm gonna work for free, but in exchange, I want you to write me a testimonial. If you don't want to write a testimonial, I will write it for you, and I need you to sign off on it. Right? Like that's how I would think about it. Or it's, hey, do you think this is gonna make money? If you think it's gonna make money, I will work for free until you make money. Then I want to cut. What's that gonna charge you? Right? So you can think about you can think about not just getting money out of the engagement, but also again demonstrating the outcomes, right? Like if you want to be fully responsible for the outcome, don't pay me until you get the result that you care about. Then let's ask the question: what is the result you care about? You know, if you're building a SaaS business but you don't know if it's going to make any money, maybe I'll work with you. And then I just want like 50% of the revenue until you pay me back 30%, $30,000, and I'll let you know if it's a bad idea, right? But I think a lot of it too is like, if they're not willing to move forward the contract, they might not have enough proof and they might not have enough information or evidence that you can just do the thing. So a part of there, it's like, how can I build up a content library to tell them that I know what they want? How can I demonstrate the accountability, right? Stuff like that. Yeah, if they don't want to just think of evals at all, I think what I would talk about is like, hey, like what is that going to cost you? Every time you add a new feature, it's going to take 3 hours of human review, right? That means if you want to have 3 ideas and have 3 tests, it's going to take you the whole day. But what would happen if you had evals and metrics? If you had 10 experiments, that could happen in like an afternoon. So the question is like, do you want to run a lot of experiments, or do you care about being slow, or do you care about being able to iterate quickly? Because look, if you can iterate quickly, these improvements are going to be compounding. And so if you don't want compounding improvements in your ability to experiment and iterate on this very probabilistic system, that's totally fine with me. Yeah, like a lot of it is just like, do you want the results? You can get, and like your expertise will basically tell you like, okay, if you just want to do this other stuff has to change. And it's fine to not want that, because like there are companies that don't have metrics and evals, and that's okay, right? It's like, okay, if you don't want metrics and evals, maybe, but you want to know how to improve, maybe the answer is we'll add in like feedback buttons or something, right? Because what I'm selling you isn't these lists of tasks. What I'm selling you is this outcome. And so we can really figure out what the constraints are, right? because I actually want you to get what you want out of it. Like, yeah, if I come to your house because you want me to clean up for you, do you want a deep clean or not, or do you just want to like make sure your friends don't think you're gross, right? Do you want me to focus on the kitchen more? Because like we can do all that. Because what I actually what I actually want for you is to like feel good and have these outcomes. And I think you can totally justify not doing those things, right? As long as you know what they actually want. I just don't work with people who don't know what they want, because if I can't describe it, I can't capture any value, right? If they're just like, oh, we're curious, want to try stuff, it's like, what's that worth to you? That's probably worth nothing, because I'm kind of selling to someone. It's like selling hot dogs outside of McDonald's. It's like, damn, like nobody wants this. But like I started my consulting business because people were really hungry. And why were they hungry? It's because a year ago, many companies had investor pressures to invest the money into figuring out their AI strategy. I was like, oh, okay, I can help you do that. Right? That's the hunger. The hunger was there was investor pressure. Right? So there's like a ton of different stuff. Yes, it is. It's going to be available on YouTube and on Twitter. And then I'm going to turn this into a blog post and give that away for free, in the hopes that all this free content will help me sell my book. And again, I think that's the whole like one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to basically in the first couple of chapters describe what I'm trying to do to sell the book, and you basically say like, hey, I did everything that I said to do to sell the book. It's like free content. I work for free, write the content, right? Like I'm going to write blog posts. By working for free, I reviewed like so many goddamn consulting proposals this morning. And now it's like, okay, how to charge more money, how to ask the right questions, how to design a landing page. These are all the things you're going to see on Twitter in the next like 2 months. You know, oh wow, Jason, I think of Jason in terms of consulting now. Oh shit, Jason has a book. There's no way I don't make more money. Like once I'm done with the book, it really is like there's no fucking way you don't make more money. There's no fucking way you don't make more money after you read my book. Like if you don't make more money, I could do a couple things. I could say like, fucking, I'll give you your money back, right? I could say this. I'll say this. Like maybe this is the guarantee. Buy my book. If you don't make money, return the book, and I will give you like an hour of my time to help you fix your proposal. And then I want like 30% of any extra money you would have made. Like that's a crazy guarantee. But like you're gonna make more money. You're gonna make more money. You know? Because like I spent like $400 on a book on like how to price better. Is the next proposal that gets accepted, I'm gonna make like $30,000 extra. Like the book is free, right? But yeah, I mean, this would be interesting. Maybe it's just like, okay, if you buy the book and you don't make more money, return the book. I'll consult for you, and then you can just, yeah, I don't know. I just want like 30% of any additional revenue I build for you. That would be crazy. Yeah, but this is also why, like, you know, like how much I charge for this book is going to be a function of like how much money I think people can make. Like, I don't think I'm going to charge like $300 for it, but it's not going to be $20. You know what I mean? But I think like a money back guarantee would make sense. I think and again, dream, likelihood of success, time and effort. Dream, make more money. Likelihood of success, I literally went from $170 an hour to $100,000 a month. Like I just fucking did it, right? P time, I will give you all my proposals. I will show you my landing pages. I will show you the questions I ask. I'll tell you what kind of answers I get. I'm going to just tell you exactly like what prompts I use to make the proposals, what prompts I use to research memos. And effort, I'm going to give you all the resources. All you got to do is copy my shit, put it in a prompt, and get something out that's better. There's just no way you don't make more money. Like if you don't make more money, you're just sorry, you're just bad, right? Like, but most of you probably aren't that bad. Like most people know you're leaving money on the table just by adding 3 options and adding 1 extra option. There's another like $2,000 extra, and being creative with how to ask for that $2,000 extra. You would make more money. Anyways, then once you make that money, you'll realize you're better off selling something. Any more questions? I don't know how Twitter counts viewers. I don't think this number goes backwards. So I feel like what's happening is Twitter counts like incremental views versus viewers. Yeah, I mean, Twitter right now is at 2,028 viewers. Let's see if this number goes backwards. Yeah, if you have any other questions, feel free to leave them. And then, yeah, this will all be recorded. Cool. No more questions. I'm going to sign off. I hope you guys get rich. And yeah, I don't know. Subscribe to my newsletter. That's where I'll probably publish everything. Peace. Yeah, I fucking knew it. I was like, there's no way 2,000 people are on right now. That's crazy. All right. Peace. My confidence precedes me. Confidence is the memory of success. I've just yapped so much for the past year.